Welcome to a fundamental analysis for the survival and profitability of your agricultural project. If you are raising poultry, small livestock, or running any kind of homestead, you already know that a predator doesn't just steal an animal, it steals your investment, your hard-earned time, and your peace of mind. In this business, security is not a luxury. It is an operational necessity. Many producers find themselves at a crossroads when their inventory starts dropping due to nocturnal attacks or incursions from aerial and terrestrial predators. The question that immediately arises is, how do I protect my investment efficiently and economically? Today we are going to put two of the most effective and time-tested biological security solutions head-to-head: the territorial instinct of the goose versus the loyalty and sheer power of the livestock guardian dog, or LGD. This isn't just about choosing an animal, it's about choosing a security system that fits your budget and the scale of your production. To understand which of these guardians is best for your specific case, we need to break down not just their defense skills, but also their operating costs, management requirements, and, most importantly, your return on investment. A guard that costs more than what it protects is no longer an asset, it becomes a liability. Let's start by analyzing our first contender, an animal that is often underestimated but possesses one of the most vigilant natures in the animal kingdom, the goose. Contrary to popular belief, a goose isn't just an aggressive farm bird, it is a high-precision biological alarm system. Its effectiveness is rooted in three pillars: vision, hearing, and a total lack of social hierarchy with humans when it comes to territory. Geese have a field of vision of nearly 360 degrees. Their ability to detect movement at long distances is superior to many mammals, but what truly makes them special is their sleep structure. Geese can sleep with one hemisphere of their brain active and one eye open, meaning they technically never lower their guard completely. When a stranger appears, whether it's a fox, a raccoon, a stray dog, or even a human who doesn't belong in that environment, the goose does not hesitate. Its response is immediate, a piercing, high-decibel shriek that can be heard for hundreds of yards, followed by an intimidating physical stance. In the United States, specific breeds stand out for this job. The Chinese goose, for example, is widely known as the loudest and most alert, ideal for larger homesteads where you need an alarm that will wake up even the heaviest sleeper. On the other hand, the African goose or the Emden offers a more imposing physical presence that can deter smaller predators, like large rats, weasels, or young hawks attempting to swoop down on chicks. However, the greatest value of the goose to the producer is its operating cost. A goose is an herbivore par excellence. On a farm with good pasture, your feed cost is close to zero for most of the year. Beyond guarding, geese keep the grass short, and their droppings function as high-quality fertilizer. It is a worker that literally pays for itself. Continuing our evaluation, we must be honest about the limitations of our winged guardian. While the goose is an exceptional alarm, its actual combat capability is limited. It can chase off a young bobcat or a small raptor, but faced with a coyote, a feral dog, or a large predator, the goose will turn from the guard to the victim. This is where our second contender enters the frame, the livestock guardian dog, or LGD. It is vital to make a key distinction here. An LGD is not a pet, nor is it a herding dog like a border collie. While a border collie moves the livestock, the LGD lives with the livestock. Their job is not to chase the sheep or the chickens, but to become part of the flock and defend it with their lives. Breeds such as the Great Pyrenees, the Anatolian Shepherd, the Akbash, or the Maremma sheepdog have been selectively bred for millennia for their protective instinct and their low prey drive. The fundamental difference here is physical deterrence and direct confrontation. A fox might ignore the screams of a goose if it's hungry enough, but it will not ignore the presence of a 110-pound animal made of muscle and teeth that is actively tracking it. An LGD uses a scale of defense. First, it marks the territory with urine and deep, booming warning barks. If that doesn't work, it uses body language. And if the predator decides to strike, the LGD has the power necessary to neutralize the threat permanently. Managing an LGD requires a higher level of specialization from the producer. You cannot simply drop a puppy into a pen. There is a critical bonding or imprinting process that happens between 8 and 16 weeks of age, where the dog must bond emotionally with the animals it will protect, not with the humans in the house. If this process is botched, the dog will want to be on the porch asking for belly rubs instead of out in the field protecting the flock under rain or snow. From a business perspective, the dog represents a much higher initial and recurring investment. The acquisition cost of a puppy with good working genetics is high, often ranging from $500 to $1,500 depending on the breed and bloodline. To this, we must add the cost of vaccinations, heartworm prevention, and most importantly, food. A dog of this size consumes a significant amount of high-protein kibble, which represents a fixed monthly cost in your production budget. Therefore, the question you must ask is, Is the value of the animals the dog saves each year greater than the cost of maintaining the dog? In medium to large-scale operations, the answer is usually a resounding yes. Now that we know the individual strengths and weaknesses, let's dive into the area that interests us most, the comparison of profitability and efficiency in real-world working scenarios. As producers, we must think with a cold, analytical mind. If you have a small backyard poultry operation, say 20 to 50 birds, and your main problem is aerial predators or small mammals like opossums or raccoons, a group of 3 or 4 geese is probably your best bet. Why? Because the cost of feeding a Great Pyrenees to protect 20 chickens could eat up your entire net profit for the year. In this case, the goose offers you free security based on grazing, and you act as the enforcement arm when you hear the alarm. Conversely, if you manage a flock of sheep, goats, or an industrial open-range poultry operation where attacks from coyotes or feral dogs are common, geese are completely insufficient. In this scenario, the LGD is the only one who can guarantee your inventory is still there in the morning. The dog works at night while you sleep. The dog patrols the perimeter and makes autonomous defense decisions. In high-value productions, the LGD is not an expense, it's an insurance policy for your capital. Let's talk about longevity and system resilience. A goose can live and work efficiently for 15 to 20 years. They are extremely hardy animals that rarely get sick if they have access to clean water and shade. On the other hand, a large breed dog has a working life of approximately 8 to 10 years. This means that in the long run, a guard system based on geese is more persistent and requires less frequent replacement. However, there is a factor that few mention but is crucial for farm harmony: liability. In the United States, this is a big deal. Geese are indiscriminate. They will attack the mailman, your children, or your customers if they aren't used to them. This can be a problem if you have a farm open to the public, or if you sell products directly from your property. A well-trained LGD is capable of discerning between a predator and an authorized visitor, although it will always maintain a cautious distance. If an LGD bites a trespasser or a neighbor's dog, you could face legal issues, so your fencing must be as much about keeping the dog in as it is about keeping predators out. In terms of logistics, the goose requires water. It doesn't need a massive lake, but it does need a place to submerge its head and clean its feathers to stay healthy. If your farm is in an extremely arid region where water is a scarce and expensive resource, this is a strike against the goose. The dog, while needing constant fresh water to drink, does not require additional hydraulic infrastructure. At this point, I want to propose a strategy that has worked best for me and many of the producers I advise: the hybrid security model. Why choose one when you can have the best of both worlds? In a hybrid system, we use the goose as the perimeter alarm and the LGD as the rapid response unit. Geese, with their ultra-sensitive hearing and night vision, will detect an anomaly long before the predator even enters the dog's line of sight. The commotion caused by the geese puts the dog on immediate alert. The dog can then head exactly to the point of conflict without having to patrol blindly all night, saving energy and increasing effectiveness. Additionally, geese offer a layer of protection against predators that dogs sometimes ignore. For example, many LGDs become accustomed to the presence of hawks in the sky and don't react until the bird actually dives. The goose, out of pure avian preservation instinct, will give the alarm at the slightest shadow in the sky, protecting its own goslings and the rest of the farm's poultry. Another benefit of the hybrid system is the reduction of stress in your livestock. When production animals, especially ruminants, learn they have efficient guardians, they spend more time grazing and less time in a state of high alert. A stress-free animal converts feed into meat, milk, or eggs more efficiently. Tranquility translates directly into pounds, and therefore into dollars. But beware, to implement this system there are golden rules. You should never introduce adult geese to a dog that isn't familiar with birds or vice versa. Integration must be gradual. Ideally, an LGD puppy should grow up seeing geese as part of the working team. A dog that sees a goose as a toy or prey is a guaranteed disaster. Similarly, the goose must learn that the dog is an ally. Otherwise, constant harassment of the dog by the geese can create a conflict that ends poorly for the birds. For those of you just starting out with a limited budget, my recommendation is clear: start with the geese. They are inexpensive, easy to find, feed off what grows on your land, and will provide that first layer of security every producer needs. As your business grows and your inventory becomes more valuable, reinvest a portion of your profits into a high-quality LGD with working bloodlines. That is the natural progression of a successful, professional farm. To wrap up this analysis, I want you to walk away with a piece of business management wisdom. On the farm, the only worker who doesn't take a vacation is the biological guardian. Whether you lean toward the economic efficiency and loud alarm of the goose, or the imposing strength and total protection of the LGD, What matters is that you stop seeing these animals as expenses and start seeing them as production tools. Every animal that the goose or the dog saves from an attack is net profit that stays in your pocket. If you lose 10 chickens a month due to lack of protection, by the end of the year you've lost enough money to have paid for the maintenance of any guard system 3 times over. The question isn't whether you can afford to have a guardian, the question is whether you can afford to keep producing without one. Evaluate your terrain, analyze your local predators, be it coyotes in the plains or foxes in the woods, and look at your ledgers. The answer on which to choose lies in your own production data. If you're looking for low cost and constant vigilance, the goose is your ally. If you're looking for high-level security and direct confrontation against serious threats, the LGD is your best investment. And if you want a bulletproof farm, the team of Goose and Dog is, without a doubt, the winning formula. I hope this breakdown helps you make the best decision for your projects. Remember that the difference between a hobby and a business is how we protect our assets. Don't let predators take the fruit of your labor. Study your breeds, prepare your grounds, and above all, keep your focus on profitability and the well-being of your animals. If you found this analysis helpful, don't forget to check out our other videos on poultry profitability and agricultural business management, where we continue to break down the best strategies to ensure your farm is not just a lifestyle, but a thriving and sustainable enterprise. To your success, fellow breeder, until next time.